Why is there so much opposition to the e-tolls? And were e-tolls imposed on Gauteng motorists? What were the recent e-tolls public hearings in Midrand aimed to achieve? Did SANRAL explore all alternatives before introducing the e-tolls model? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Tsedu. Is e-tolling the only effective funding model to improve Gauteng's road infrastructure? As the debate rages on, opposing voices are equally escalating. As a follow-up to Premier David Makura's State of the Province pledge to set up a panel to review e-tolling of Gauteng's freeways, public hearings were recently held in Midrand, Johannesburg, to deliberate on finding a lasting solution to this matter. My guest in studio is Mr. Wayne Duvenage. Or is it Duvenage?
Doesn't matter.
Duvenage. Okay, Duvenage. He is the chairperson of the opposition for Urban Tolling Alliance out. And please note we had invited SANRAL and Civil Engineering South Africa to participate in the discussion, and they declined. Mr. Duvenage, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You seem, it would appear that you're quite busy. Have you already submitted your papers at the hearings?
Yes, we did. On Tuesday, the 2nd of September, we gave our input along with a 50-page document, a position paper, which contains a lot of research and numbers. And we've done a lot of work over the last 3 years. So, yeah, we've made our submission.
You have not changed your mind?
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, our mind becomes more made up and more concrete around this issue as time goes on, because we learn more and more about the wrongs of e-tolling and how irrational this decision has been.
You say that SANRAL is trying to intimidate people into complying by threatening them with prosecution.
Yeah.
That's not a threat.
Well, that was the threat. They haven't carried it out.
Yes.
That is, they haven't summoned anybody as yet, but as far back as February, March, the SMSs were going out there. There were notices made on the invoices, as well as press announcements made very clear by SANRAL that they would hand over people who weren't paying through to the prosecution process, and that's direct,
Now, you seem to be saying that, or suggesting that there are other efficient ways of getting this e-toll. And this debate, I think, has just been going on forever. The fuel levy story and all that, and where you're saying that there could be 100% compliance.
Yes.
And government has not bought into your story.
Yeah, and we don't understand why. It's very strange. So here's the choice you have. You have an e-tolling system which costs over R1 billion a year, and you will never have 100% compliance. In fact, they don't even have 40% compliance, and these systems fail when you get anything less than 80% compliance. Or you have an option of a fuel levy which has 100% compliance and zero, not R1 administration costs. Now, which one would society want to choose? Because you know what we could do with that R1 billion a year, every single year, just going into the process of collecting the money before R1 goes into the tarmac. We could build schools with that, more roads, clinics, the list goes on. So it's just the most irrational decision.
Do you have confidence in the courts of the land?
The courts, of course we do.
Now, the e-toll system was implemented across Gauteng on December 3, right?
Yeah.
And this followed several court challenges and widespread public opposition, as it was said. Some people have refused to get the e-tax or pay their e-tolls. Now, why don't you believe that the same courts that you have confidence in are the ones that decided that these things must go on?
Well, you can have an irrational law, and we believe that e-tolling has been introduced unlawfully. Remember, the Supreme Court of Appeal has not ruled on the lawfulness of tolling. The Supreme Court of Appeal said to OUTA that you have brought your case too late, and on a technicality in administrative law, they had to set our case aside. And that's fine, because we know that when it comes to the time when a judge has to criminalize, let's say, a school teacher with 2 children at home who travels on these freeways, or a nurse, or any individual for that matter, for non-paying e-tolls, he's going to have to think very clearly about, do I give this person a criminal record? Do I send them to jail, or do I not? Now, we know and we believe, and we have got more than enough evidence to prove that e-tolling has been introduced unlawfully. And when a judge is faced with that situation, he cannot prosecute. He's going to have to consider all of those facts. And when that happens, the matter now needs to go under review. And that is a serious situation which has to happen. And we have invited SANRAL. We have invited them to summon somebody. We have put ourselves forward, a number of us, and said, come and take us to court. We need to bring this out. We need to fight this matter.
So you're crying, what, technicality foul here?
No, we're not crying anything. We're saying that this law is unjust. If you consider what SANRAL did when they got this act declared, they said they had consulted with the public. They put one advert in 6 newspapers. And they hid some of those adverts in the international business section.
But what do you mean they hid them? They were in the newspaper.
They placed them, yes. But if you want to engage meaningfully with society, I'm talking about meaningfully, you engage meaningfully. If you get 28 responses from a very vague advert, you've got to say to yourself something's wrong. But they ticked the consultation box.
I wouldn't believe you, Wayne. I mean, if you're saying they put the advert in the business section of those newspapers.
Yeah.
What are you saying? Are you saying that ordinary people are not interested in business news?
No, what we're saying is that if you want to engage with the masses, the people that it's going to impact, you need to be meaningful in engagement.
Who are these masses you're talking about?
Motorists, people that don't read the business section of the newspapers, people that drive on the freeways. They needed to hear adverts on the radio, TV, invitations to come to public hearings on the discussion. Do you know that people like ourselves who headed up big business, the biggest fleet buyers in this country, not one request from SANRAL, please come, we want to have a chat with you about this tolling plan. Nothing, not the Road Freight Association, the AA, Savrala, nobody.
But they have advertised. What more do you want? Do you read the business section of the paper after all?
I didn't see that advert. I never saw the adverts.
Then you're not reading the business section.
But let me explain it to you this way. If I was the CEO of SANRAL, I would have said to my lieutenants, gentlemen, go and find the big fleet owners out there, bring them here because we must talk to them about this plan.
Okay.
28 responses from a newspaper advertising campaign is meaningless. We have not got enough input from society. Go and fetch the people. Put some billboards up, put some radio adverts out, and tell the people openly and transparently what we're trying to do here. And let's engage with society. They never did that. That's why you have the backlash.
Is this not political? The answer only after the break.
Okay.
This is question time.
Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of Sports Live, the show that brings you the latest local and international news, live interviews with the who's who in sport. He's the first South African to wear a yellow jersey that was at the Tour de France this year.
It's the first time that we get a boxer who's recognized by the Ring magazine as the best fighter in the planet to visit our country.
And he's very close to world record pace. And in fact, it is a new world record.
When you cross the line, what went through one's mind?
None of the 4 of us knew who had won. The scoreboard is always on the left, but all of us tend to the right. No, we just waited for the country to go down. RSA.
That's Sports Live, daily at 8:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Murder accused Oscar Pistorius could face at least 30 days in psychiatric evaluation.
Mr. Pistorius has a long history of generalized anxiety disorder that appears to have been increasing with time.
The state can ask for such an evaluation according to Section 78A of the Criminal Procedures Act.
It is likely to have commenced at the age of 11 months when he was hospitalized and underwent bilateral below knee amputation.
So you agree with me if I say that he foresaw the possibility that he might have to shoot when he armed himself and approached danger?
Yes.
Make sure you don't miss Your World, weekdays between 11 and 12 midnight.
Welcome back. My guest in studio is Mr. Wayne Divenage. He's the chairperson of OUTA, Opposition for Urban Tolling Alliance. The answer.
So you're saying, is this a political decision?
No, not a political decision. What? A political campaign.
Who, from OUTA?
Yeah.
No, man, this is why would you say it's political? We're not a political party. We didn't stand in the elections. We've got nothing to do with politics. In fact, right in the beginning when OUTA was formed, we had requests by political parties and political movements to be part of the campaign, and we asked them not to be part of the campaign.
Well, DA put up posters. I mean, they put up billboards.
No, but, I mean, if political parties are going to capitalize on those opportunities, and in fact, every single political party, every single one of them, barring the ruling party, ruled against and voted against this bill. So, I mean, there's going to be politics involved in it. Our campaign is one around the reasonableness of it, around the costs, the inefficiencies of tolling, and the impact that it has on society.
But don't you think that if the e-tolls were that unpopular, they would have cost the election, the ANC the elections?
Well, I think they're very worried about the 2016 elections. I think they got a message very clearly in the last elections in May. And they are concerned, and that's why David Makura has called for this review and this panel, this advisory panel, to look deeper into the matter. If you're saying that there's no political concern by the ANC around e-tolling, I think you'd be mistaken.
So, are you saying that the Premier's announcement is politically motivated?
No, I think he's had a good look. I think he realizes that his province, the people that live here and work here, are frustrated. They're angry. He's seen the messages and he wants to do something about it. And he made it very clear in 2011 and 2012 that he was against it. Personally, he knew that these tolls were going to be damaging to this province. He's made that statement before.
But that's not a provincial project.
Well, it goes through his province, I'm afraid. You know, it's impacting on Gauteng. So the fact that it's a national road, it is impacting on the urban infrastructure of this region. So these people in Gauteng travel these roads daily to get to work, to get to church, to get to school, to get to sport. This is Gauteng's roads, and they're impacting here. And they are also South Africa's roads because the economy flows to these routes.
Do you want to ride for free?
No, I don't. I pay for the roads. I pay taxes. I pay fuel levies. I'm not going to ride for free. We pay. A user pays every time I fill my tank up. Roughly 100 Rand goes into the fuel levy. Every time I start my engine and drive on the road, I'm paying for the use of the road. The more people that pay, the more people that drive, the more they pay. That's that's the most equitable and easiest to apply user pays mechanism.
And you would want people to use the fuel levy, or rather you would want government to use the fuel levy to fund this?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. When the GFIP construction phase started in 2008, 2009, the fuel levy was bringing in 24.5 to 25 billion Rand a year. Do you know what the fuel levy will bring in this tax year, ending in 2015? 50 billion Rand. It has gone up by 100% a year, every year. Do you know what the cost of GFIP is? 1.9 billion Rand a year to fund it, including interest over 20 years. It makes no sense to go and slap a 45 gantry system up that's going to cost, as I said, nearly over R1 billion a year just to administer, and you never get all the people to pay. You'll never get there. You won't even get close to 60%. And they're at 40% and it's already tapering off. People are getting fed up. They're taking their tags off their windscreens right now.
Yeah, but, people have never paid, not everybody ever pays for anything, you know?
No, they do.
Well,
they do.
Not everybody is paying for their traffic fines.
Well, that's an issue, and that's a good discussion. You need to have, why not? Why do you think there's only 15% of people paying for traffic fines? Because if you cannot administer something, it doesn't matter what law you put in place. Laws are only as good as they're governable. So if you want to put in a traffic fine process like this and you cannot collect, then people start saying, well, there's no problem, I'm not going to pay. But people pay their electricity because they'll lose their electricity if they don't. People pay their taxes, otherwise they get into trouble if they don't. Where you can administer it, it's fine. Where you can't, just question what you're doing. And the other thing about the traffic fine legislation, which needs to also be challenged, it's got nothing to do with road safety anymore. All they do with traffic fines is pour money into the regional and the metro coffers. If they dealt with safety, road safety, it would be a different picture.
Well, I guess I agree with you there, but it doesn't mean that people should not be fined. You know, every time you find these folks, sitting behind the bridge,
the
under the
bushes,
bridge, hiding behind the bushes and all that.
Are they doing this for road safety, or are they doing it to raise money for the municipalities?
Don't you reduce speed when you know or when you can see them?
You don't see them. I mean, have they? I don't think they've reduced the number of traffic fines. It's gone up. Our death rate on these roads will hit another 15,000 this year on a per capita base, one of the highest in the world. On these good roads, it's crazy. We're not managing safety. We're just trying to find ways to fill the coffers, and that's exactly what e-tolling's about.
No, I hear you, but now I don't understand that. Are you therefore saying that even such laws should therefore be challenged, and then we're going to have another outer that's dealing specifically?
Outer's certainly not going to do that. I can tell you now in the UK, a judge has ruled against traffic fine processes where they have got nothing to do with road safety and everything to do with filling coffers. That needs to be challenged. Outer's not going to challenge it. We don't have time and money for that. We challenged the decision to e-toll because it was an irrational one. It was one that lacked the necessary consultation. It is inefficient, and it certainly wasn't introduced for the best interest of society. We want to pay for our roads. We know that infrastructure doesn't fall out of the sky. It has to come out of the pockets of the people. We want government to do that efficiently. We want them to do it fairly. And if they don't consult the people, it's a case of users say, otherwise users will not pay. They need to be transparent, and they need to be open and engaging with society. This style of government will have a backlash. There will be a tax revolt on it, exactly as what you're seeing right now. The people have had enough, and they will not pay e-tolls.
So, are you prepared to to pay the same amount, at least through fuel levy?
Yeah, we're paying it. It's there. The money is in the pot. Every day, 50 billion rand this year will go into the fuel levy.
Yeah, but it's not for that.
But what is it for? You know, there's a road that's being built between Costa and Mafeking, or Wakkerstroom and...
Which has been going on forever.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, there's roads there. I don't travel those roads, but I'm paying for them. I'm paying for them like you're paying for them. We're all paying for them. I don't have a problem with that. You see, so when people in Durban or East London say, but why should we pay for your roads here? The first question they've got is, and your roads, how are they looking these days, and are they tolled? No, they're not tolled, and they're in good shape, thank you very much. Can Joburg have its roads as well? Through the same process. Remember, and the Presidential Commission that reviewed state-owned entities last year said, public infrastructure or social infrastructure, including roads, they say, should not be subjected to user pays. It should be subjected to taxes. That's what we pay taxes for.
Okay. 8 things that need to be, 8 things needed to make e-tolls work, and this is your position. We'll discuss those only after the break.
Okay.
This question time, please don't go away.
Zoom into Africa. This is Malawi. The president is Professor Peter Mutharika. Malawi got independent from the United Kingdom on 6 July in 1964. The population is more than 15 million people. One of Malawi's major languages is English. Monetary unit, Malawi Kwacha.
Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of Sports Live, the show that brings you the latest local and international news, live interviews with the who's who in sport. He's the first South African to wear a yellow jersey that was at the Tour de France this year.
It's the first time that we get a boxer who's recognized by the Ring magazine as the best fighter in the planet to visit our country.
And he's very close to world record pace. And in fact, it is a new world record.
When you cross the line, what went through one's mind?
None of the 4 of us knew who had won. The scoreboard is always on the left, but all of us tend to the right. No, we just waited for the country to go down. RSA.
That's Sports Live, daily at 8:30 p.m. on SABC News.
the Swaziland Tourism Authority invited Kaleidoscope on a media tour of what has become known as the Little Switzerland of Africa, the Kingdom of Swaziland. The Mantanga Waterfall is one of Swaziland's best known and most accessible waterfalls, as it can be seen within 50 meters.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. My guest in the studio, Mr. Wayne Duvenage. He's the chairperson of OUTA, the Opposition for Urban Tolling Alliance. Now, the 8 things that you're saying needed to be done to make e-tolls work. This is according to OUTA. Public support, which you obviously are saying people are not supporting.
Yes, yes. So those, by the way, come out of research done by academics. Aaron Holmes and Dr. Holmer and the University of Pretoria have done quite an extensive research. We followed on from that, looked even deeper, because you must know one thing, that we didn't just sit back and say we don't want to pay tolls. We had to do a lot of research to make sure that our facts were right, that we weren't going down the wrong road, and that we had to question our stance all the time. What they have found is that there are 8 prerequisites for successful tolling around the world in the research, and they've looked at why systems fail and why they are successful. And there are some successful tolling systems. The first one, public support. Unless you get the willing, not the beaten into submission compliance, but the willing compliance from society to say we are behind this. We're behind it because it is right, because you've been transparent, because you have consulted, and we understand where the money is going. Then you get one factor of success in place.
I am yet to see anything where people have to pay, which they support, except sport.
I disagree. I think I don't see people saying we're not going to pay value-added tax. We're not going to pay our PAYE. They understand that a country cannot run without funding through a well-structured and managed tax system. If you give them the loopholes, as they have done in the past, and SARS has tightened those loopholes up, and congratulations to them, that's the way you do it. So I don't see people saying, no, we're not going to pay for things. So they are paying.
Okay. Public transport, you're saying there needs to be an efficient alternative.
Yes, there has to be. In every system where e-tolling and intelligent transport systems work, you have good alternatives. If not public transport, good alternative routes. We don't have either of those 2 options. People will say, but there are other roads. Have you tried to travel on those roads in peak hour traffic? There is no way. Traffic lights, potholes, and not only that, the congestion is too big. Public transport, it's a no-brainer from this point of view. You try and move 5% of the current motorists off out of their cars and into public transport, and you've got chaos. So it is not right, and even President Zuma in the 14th of June 2012 went to the streets, took to the public transport system to see it for himself, and his response and the anger of the people, he was very open about it. The public transport system is not right. It's not ready. It's not reliable. It's not safe enough. There are security issues. So quite frankly, what I think society was robbed of here in Paul. And I, first of all, was taken aback by the statement that was made. Maybe we shouldn't have put 1 cent into the roads. Maybe we should have put all that money into integrated public transport. Because as the mayor of Bogota says, a sign of a developed society is not when poor people drive cars. It's when rich people use public transport. And we don't have those alternatives. So I think that was actually quite an astounding statement made in a debate by somebody. And when we think about it, had SANRAL or had the authorities engaged wide and meaningfully, maybe we would have put 5 billion rand into the road infrastructure and 15 billion rand into public transport.
Let's
that would have solved
put
congestion.
Together this simple billing system with reliable technology. You don't trust the technology they're using. You're not happy with the billing system.
Yeah, well, the billing system, the billing process is quite cumbersome. It's complicated. The technology, why are we having billing errors? Why are people whose cars were written off or stolen or sold 2 years ago still getting bills? Why are people that have registered in the system not even getting their bills? And they've got their cars and they've financed their vehicles, and the information is in eNatus. eNatus is a database that is fraught with inefficiencies, and the data has been compromised. So the minute that information feeds into the e-tolling system, you're going to have problems. We warned SANRAL about that. We said there are going to be problems around the administration. And they said, no, all of that will be fine. And it's not fine. It never has been fine. The first launch date of e-tolls was April 2011. We are now in 2014. They've had more than enough time to fix the administration, and it's failing.
Do you think that technology would never ever have glitches?
Well, you know, of course you're going to get glitches. You're going to get the odd teething problem. This is serious stuff. This is not minor stuff. The technology does work. It works overseas. They get 90% compliance. They get people paying. It's not a problem. But when you try and put it into this environment where your eNatus is wrong, where people can go and get clone number plates. In Europe, you can't go and just take, I want that number plate there. I like that number plate. It's got the same color of car as mine. Let me put it on mine and I'll ride on his ticket. You can't do that. Here you can go to a shop and buy a number plate, any false number plate, put it on. And the chances of you getting caught, maybe a small percent, but you get away with it here. So if you cannot administer, then you're going to invite these problems. Why would people do that? I don't know, but they do it. Sadly, there's a high degree of dishonesty, and the people will take chances.
A quick one, environmental benefits.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going to reduce congestion, that's good. You reduce emissions, and that is one of the benefits that comes from decongesting roads. But you know, then you need to make sure that you are managing the process properly all the time, that you don't just induce congestion 5 years later. And that's what happens when you build roads. When you widen roads, unless you give alternatives, you're just going to invite the congestion to happen. And induced congestion has been studied, and we've invited the congestion back onto these roads. Within 8 years, you have to build another lane.
You have, perhaps as a last point, you're saying that SANRAL is not even a credible organization at that.
Well, they've lost credibility. I think just go and do the polls, do a research on, and let me put it to you this way. While SANRAL were building big, nice new highways, the credibility, and they had a good brand name. If you want to measure SANRAL's brand name and brand status right now, it's incredible. It's down.
Wow. Okay. Let's see what happens as time goes, whether indeed the e-tolls will be scrapped or not.
I'm sure they're going to be, because you cannot flog a horse that was never alive in the first place forever.
Okay. That was question time for today. A big thank you to my guest and to you for watching the show. Our email address? What? Our email address is questiontime@sabc.co.za. Excuse me about that. Our Twitter handle is @questiontime24. From me and the crew, this stuff, whatever time. Goodbye.